In some ways, Silksong is an impossible game to review. It crashed every major game store, amassed $50 million in 3 days on Steam alone, and has current active players in the region of 5 million. The combined efforts of Ari Gibson, whose incredible artistic talents adorn both titles, William Pellon and Jack Vine, responsible for coding and design, and of course Christopher Larkin, who has produced once again an outstanding soundtrack. These individuals comprise Team Cherry, who ridiculously have actually found themselves under fire for producing a game of such high quality and releasing it for such a low price. If that doesn't tell you about the state of gaming in 2025, nothing else will. After 25.5 hours, while I haven't yet 100%ed the game, it has shown me more than enough, I think, to make this review. Does this sequel carry a silky song, or could you end up getting stung? Well, my name's Mark Walker, welcome back to SwitchUp, now let's find out. The vast kingdom of Farloom is where your adventure begins, with the new protagonist Hornet finding herself captured and being dragged through these underground caverns on a journey to who knows where. After her inevitable escape, she begins a quest to reach the Citadel. It's from here she believes she can retrieve answers and, if needs be, render some much needed justice. And this will be the first major change most players will notice. Hornet has a full set of dialogue. She interacts with all the inhabitants of the world, no longer a silent protagonist. Instead, we're introduced to a veteran warrior, an individual who will stop at nothing to achieve her goal, but who also has a nice bit of nuance. Some of the character interactions were quite surprising, and she is certainly no pushover, but also doesn't simply follow a two-dimensional archetype. The term Metroidvania doesn't even mean a great deal anymore, does it? It seems to bridge a few different genres, but essentially we've got a vast, interconnected world with new areas unlocking as you gain skills. And in that regard, Silksong doesn't deviate much from the formula. However, if you get 2 or 3 people playing this at the same time, it soon becomes apparent how much freedom Team Cherry have built into the title. It's feasible to have played for a number of hours and faced entirely different bosses, discovered locations that your friends haven't, and even unlocked skills that they haven't even seen, with the opposite being equally true. In my opinion, that is the hallmark of a game designed well. Now, while Silksong dresses itself up as a vertical progression working towards the Citadel, it is in fact much more of a slightly vertical explosion, branching out in all directions, but with the overarching goal of reaching those heights. This ascension is facilitated by a number of different fast travel methods. These replace the stageways from the first game and include a rather glorious looking insect that you ride on and a set of elevator-like transports. The world is interspersed with benches and checkpoints upon which Hornet can rest, which fully replenishes her health, her silk, allowing her to go back and do what she spends most of her time doing, and that's fighting. Initially, the combat in Hollow Knight Silksong feels different to Hollow Knight because of the way Hornet moves. Her downward attack comes at an angle, her size is larger, she's just more acrobatic in general, but that does change, or at least it can if you want it to. You will unlock new combat styles. These styles essentially allow you to tailor the way that she plays. For example, one of them is the exact moveset from Hollow Knight, so if you preferred those shorter swings, more speed, and a downwards attack that's completely below you, you can go in that direction. Then you have the Reaper style, which is heavier attacks, and they also come with a couple of surprises, including unique moves. With this said, combat will feel very familiar. Silksong offers over 150 different enemy types, and doing damage to those builds up her thread count, her silk, which she can then bind with to heal. This introduces another change in that you can bind in mid-air, essentially allowing you to save yourself, and this goes further as you unlock special tools. There are a serious number of different tools that you can get, from a spear that you throw in an arc, to knives that could be tossed out in all directions, or my personal favourite, a set of mechanical flying bugs that hunt down the enemies. There are dozens of these, and just when you think you've seen them all, you get a task to find 15 more that actually happened. These tools use one of the game's currencies, of which there are two. One of them are called shards, are collected when you kill enemies. You might break things within the world, but it's the other, which is perhaps the more interesting, known as rosaries. These beads, they're used as the main currency for purchasing items in shops, but also for upgrading. And a top tip for you, they can be fused into rosary necklaces, which when you die you won't lose. This is important because when Hornet does die, she forms a cocoon that you have to go back for, and that's the only way to retrieve those rosaries, or at least it is in the first 2/3 of the game, or you can just keep revisiting those stations that allow you to fuse them into necklaces to ensure you've always got a good supply. Which takes me on to difficulty. There are essentially two ways to approach Silksong. One of those ways assumes death. It's the old prepare to die that we've seen in another title. It assumes you're going to have to learn some of the boss patterns, the mechanics, and that you as a player will have to improve to reach the inevitable conclusion. The other side, well, they're not coming at it from that direction. They want the game to teach them fully all of the mechanics and for the game's difficulty to adapt to them. That just isn't Silksong. And if that's something that doesn't sound pleasing to you, then I would say this is not the game for you. But I want to caveat that the game isn't actually as hard as you think it is. For example, its mapping system in the first hour is really frustrating. Just like the first game, you have to purchase maps. This involves gathering up that rosary currency, finding someone who will sell you the maps, and then buying them. But in Silksong, it is actually made easier. In the first town, there's a specific area you can go to, and if you grind out that currency, you can just go and buy all of the map pieces that you need, and that will guide you through and make the experience much easier. The same can be said for purchasing the compass, which shows you where you are on the map, and the quill and tokens so that you can mark all of the locations. With these changes alone, it's a much more accessible experience, and there are areas that are significantly easier that you can grind to improve, but the fact that it lets you go to those bosses that are brutal and that kill you in one shot makes some players feel like it's an unfair game, and I do understand that. I just don't necessarily agree with it. An area I wasn't entirely convinced of are the quests. Now, each town has a quest board and you can undertake a variety of different ones. These will push you again further into the recesses of the kingdom, and some of them have unique boss instances, but others are simple fetch quests. Find 10 needles, search for 5 of a certain type of bug. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with those, but there's definitely variance in their overall quality. But you see, the thing is, they're optional, and going down those avenues is only going to enhance your ability to fight the more tricky bosses, but it's not essential. And then you've got the secrets. There are so many secrets in Silksong, whether it's the standard breaking walls down or using your needle in to reveal hidden walls and doors. For those who embrace it, there's a constant sense of exploration, even as you unlock more and more of the world and find yourself facing what could be the end of the game. It only takes a quick look of the vast map to notice several areas that your new abilities will be able to get you to. It even allows you to break it, so you might see a ledge and you can kite an enemy below it and then use a downwards attack to give you a boost jump to reach a location you essentially aren't supposed to be yet, but it doesn't punish you for doing so, and in fact you could find yourself unlocking something early. And then sprinkle over the top of everything I've said loads of instances that will make you go, wow, that is very cool. Surprising new mechanics, strange quirky creatures in the depths, or a boss that you thought was impossible who all of a sudden you defeat without taking a single hit. I guess the word I'm looking for is satisfying. Silksong is an incredibly satisfying and rewarding game to play that, while it doesn't progress too far beyond its original roots, branches out into areas that only improve the formula. Gameplay scores 19 out of 20. Controls are incredibly precise, although the use of up and R for your projectile weapons feels a little clunky. They score 18 out of 20. Visually, whether you're playing the game on Nintendo Switch 1 or 2, you're in for a good time. On Switch 1, you're looking at native resolution and 60 frames per second, with Switch 2 given the option of 120 frames per second at 1440p or 4K 60. Now, due to the nature of the artwork itself, you won't notice a huge amount of difference between the two. I've seen some comments about maybe different lighting effects, but realistically in motion they both look sublime. Ari Gibson has exceeded his previous work in my opinion. The level of detail and parallax, it's so much better. You don't realize until you look back at the original Hollow Knight, which was a beautiful game, how much he's improved that overall style while still keeping the same flavor. Christopher Larkin has equally done a great thing with the soundtrack. The Australian composer has worked to produce a significantly broader range of songs that complement each of the areas and only heighten the overall experience. I also do want to credit William Pellin, who worked on the game design and enemy behaviors, and Jack Vine, the programmer, who I should imagine helped to implement one of the best HD rumbles I've ever seen. When your feet hit the ground, every footstep has a lovely bit of feedback. My only critique with visuals are that some textures do look like they weren't natively painted in 4K. Only a couple looked a little blurry. Still, I'm really clutching at straws. Visuals and performance score 19 out of 20. Sound and audio scores 19 out of 20. Hollow Knight Silksong is going to set you back £16.75 or your regional equivalent, and there is both a Switch 1 or a Switch 2 version, but if you own the Switch 2 version, you also own the Switch 1 version, and there's a free upgrade from Switch 1 to 2, so at this point Nintendo should just release one version, shouldn't they? With over 200 enemies, hundreds of different locations to discover, 40 plus boss fights, the only limiting factor will be how much do you enjoy its challenge. If it's too hard for you, and for some players it will definitely feel that way, then the value will differ for you. If you're willing to persevere, push through and improve, you are in for a treat. You can finish the game in 25 hours, but you really shouldn't. You should, like me, pull back from the end and go exploring, because there's so much more to see here. Value scores the full 20 out of 20. It's an interesting one because for some, Silksong will be a disappointment. It will feel too hard and it might frustrate them. That is perfectly valid. For me, Silksong has been basically what I expected. Yes, there are those moments of real challenge, but you can usually walk away, go fight something else, go explore a different area, and only come back stronger. And the one or two times where I really hit a boss that seemed impossible, the gradual learning of its patterns and then overcoming it, that's basically why I play games. It's been quality. Silksong gets a SwitchUp score of 95%. Let me know in the comments. It's going to be an interesting one. There'll be loads of you that have loved it. I'm sure there'll be an equal number that have loathed it. I think we can all agree though that Team Cherry have put out a lovely product, and one that shows a lot of love, care, not just for it, but also for their players. Thank you to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy the content, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys.